I'm John Sawyer, the founder and executive director of the Pulitzer Center, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome you all to our 2021 annual conference. For my colleagues and myself, this is very much a high point of the year, an opportunity to gather the journalists, the educators, and engaged citizens who make the Pulitzer Center such a vibrant community, and to explore together the big systemic issues that affect us all. And when I say big, I mean big. The focus of our first conference was gender. In the years since, we've tackled conflict, religion, justice. For the first 3 years, pre-pandemic, we were literally together, overflowing the ballroom and the conference spaces of the National Press Club here in Washington. I so miss those jam panels, the receptions and dinners, catching up with old colleagues and making new friends. But on the other hand, here we are, virtually together and zooming in from all across the globe with many more participants than we ever managed to squeeze into the press club, and the opportunity to build panels with journalists and experts from China, South America, Indonesia, Europe, and many points between. Thank you all for being here. The topic of this year's conference, as you know, is Environment Redefined. More on the conference details from my colleagues shortly. What I'd like to share now is how central this topic has been to the Pulitzer Center from the start. One of our very first projects in the summer of 2006 was reporting on glacial melt in Alaska. If you look at our issues portal for environment and climate change, you'll see that we've commissioned another 270 reporting projects with 1,590 stories in the 15 years since. Those 15 years have seen dizzying about faces in governmental policies and the relentless accumulation of proof linking human-caused climate change to rising seas, bigger and worse storms, mass migrations, and the consequent explosion of xenophobic populist revolts across much of the globe. Proof as well that environmental degradation too often goes hand in hand with systemic racism, discrimination based on gender, and the suppression of the rights of indigenous peoples. We'll be talking about all those issues this week and more, including breakthrough developments in data journalism, investigative techniques, cross-platform collaborations that a decade ago would have felt unimaginable, and new Pulitzer initiatives such as Connected Coastlines that have spawned extraordinary science-based reporting on climate from journalists and news outlets on the front lines of traumatic change. We'll also be talking up the Pulitzer Center's hybrid model, our commitment to educational outreach as an absolutely core part of our mission of making compelling journalism the means of engagement for the next generation of leaders who will, we hope, solve the many critical challenges we face. On Wednesday, the conference will feature a workshop on processing climate change through poetry, drawing on the success we've had with the Fighting Words poetry contest that we've organized over the past several years. As we open the conference, I'd like to share the work of Sydney Blue Garcia-Yao, an 8th grader at Bala Cynwyd Middle School in suburban Philadelphia, who was among the winners in last year's Fighting Words contest with more than 1,000 entrants across the country and beyond. The poem Sydney wrote drew on the reporting by Pulitzer Center grantee Rosa Lister on the water crisis in Mexico City. Here's Sydney.
If we want to find solutions to today's
I'm Sydney Blue, and this is Where Water Used to Be, which has lines from Where Water Used to Be by Rosa Leister, a Pulitzer Center reporting project. 1. Eulogy for water. Water used to rain in our rivers, reservoirs, robust rivulets, overflowing, but now only the memory of water is there. Water used to be so plentiful that Mama let us dip our hands in and drink right from the stream. Our gulps too big, water splashing carelessly, made our faces gleam instead of our reflections. Everywhere is a place water used to be. Our aquifers used to seem endless until one day nothing was left. Our lakes are too polluted, the fluid too dirty to touch, because we took clean water and we turned it into a wasteland. And when our mouths are parched, all we can do is remember when water used to seem infinite. 2, our future. Drought leads to hunger, leads to violence. The path is simple. You start with a stream until it empties into a river, until it empties into the ocean, and our problems are so much bigger than we could have imagined. But all we see is the stream, the tip of the iceberg. We wait and we wait and we wait, hoping, praying that water will return to where it used to be, when really we needed action before it was too late. We used to stare at our reflections in the shine of the water, but now our reflections stare back at us, asking us why we didn't care more when water used to be everywhere.
Thank you, Sydney. You know, if you look on the K-12 and Campus Consortium landing pages on the Pulitzer Center website, you'll be amazed by the creativity, the energy, and commitment of students across the country, people like Sydney, who are standing up to the real issues we face and demanding that we respond. I think you'll be amazed as well by the person I'd like to introduce now. Marina Guevara, who joined the Pulitzer Center just over a year ago, after many years at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, as the senior editor responsible for landmark projects such as the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, and more. She is an extraordinary, indefatigable leader of our editorial team, overseeing a dramatic increase in staff and leading innovative reporting projects on COVID-19, racial justice, and so much more. Over the past 3 years, we put in motion several of our most ambitious environmental efforts to date. Among them, the Connected Coastlines work on climate here in the United States, and internationally, the Rainforest Journalism Fund, an initiative aimed at raising the quantity and quality of reporting on threats to precious rainforest reserves in the Amazon, Central Africa, and Southeast Asia. The RJF has been truly transformative, resulting in 50+ reporting projects per year and dozens of workshops and convenings aimed at building capacity among journalists in each of the rainforest regions. And now, building on the success of RJF, over the past year, we've taken the Rainforest Initiative to a whole new level. Here's Marina to tell you more.
Thank you so much, John, and hello everyone across many time zones. Thank you for joining us today. This is my first Pulitzer Center conference as executive editor, and I cannot be more excited about the lineup of speakers and the breadth and the urgency of the topics that they all will address. It is no secret that amid a global pandemic, threats to the environment have continued to soar. Just a few days ago, we learned through scientists, through the Global Forest Watch report, that the world has lost an area in 2020, an area of tree cover larger than the United Kingdom. And that includes more than 4 million hectares of primary tropical forests. With regulators and budgets tied up fighting the pandemic, loggers, miners, and organized crime networks raced to seize the moment. And as our grantees have reported extensively, traditional and indigenous communities again have been left alone to protect the rainforest from transnational market forces. So what do we do? How can journalism tackle these powerful actors and networks and hold them accountable? Well, as a reporter friend of mine says, you need a network to fight a network. So in March of this year, the Pulitzer Center planted the seeds of a new and exciting initiative, the Rainforest Investigations Network. The goal of this network is to create the conditions for powerful cross-border collaborative investigative journalism in the 3 main rainforest regions of the world, the Amazonia, the Congo Basin, and Southeast Asia. And I am happy to share that the first cohort of investigative journalists is already hard at work. They are a wonderful group of committed and experienced investigative reporters working for some of the most courageous and innovative outlets around the world, including the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, Info Congo in Cameroon, and Convoca, an investigative outlet in Peru. They are also partnering with global media outlets like El País, the New York Times, and Bloomberg. Together, these fellows will investigate some of the most important supply chains of the global economy, as well as the corruption and the legal loopholes that enable industrial-scale deforestation. Their projects combine advanced data mining techniques, including geospatial analysis and artificial intelligence, with traditional shoe leather reporting. You will get to know some of these investigative reporters throughout the conference. Don't miss the panel on power and global supply chains on Thursday. As we look to the future, we are fully aware at the Pulitzer Center of the enormous challenges that communities, advocates, scientists, and journalists working on environmental stories face. But we also have deep reasons for optimism. Journalists are leveraging technology like never before. They are building alliances across newsrooms and across borders. And they are using data to tell stories in more engaging and systemic ways. And you will see some of that in the panel that come right after these words. To end, I would like to share something that investigative journalist Khadija Sharif from South Africa recently told me. She wrote, "Our stories may not individually change the world, although some do. But putting what happened on the record to be reckoned with, built on, and maybe used later to spark change, that is more than a job. It's holding up a mirror to the society we live in and contrasting it with the kind of society in which we want to live." So thank you again for joining us today. And now on to my colleagues at the Pulitzer Center for a quick preview of what is to come this week at the Environment Redefined conference.
Good morning and welcome to Environment Redefined, the 2021 Pulitzer Center Conference. I'm Francesca Edgerlin.
And I'm Leonore Gray, and we're the Pulitzer Center's Rainforest Journalism Fund interns. We're also part of the team that helped shape this week's events, and our work was framed by several guiding questions that we believe illuminate pressing issues for journalists, researchers, policymakers, and the general public about the environment.
We asked, what do we mean by the term environment? And what is an underreported environmental story? We hope that panels such as Rooted in Race and Class, Intersections in Climate Stories, challenge understandings of where stories of inequality end and stories of the environment begin.
We considered, why are some environmental stories underreported or misreported? And through the panel, Breaking Native American and Alaska Native Stereotypes, we want to bring attention to the need for more honest environmental stories featuring Native peoples.
We pose the question, what skills are necessary to produce quality environmental reporting today? Panelists on the session Collaborative Journalism Addressing Power Dynamics will share how collaboration with local reporting partners improves the quality of reporting on the environment.
We've also invited leaders whose work cuts across the fields of journalism, scientific research, and advocacy to share their perspectives throughout the conference. This week's featured speakers include Hip Hop Caucus founder Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr., Distinguished Senior Fellow at the World Resources Institute, Francis Seymour, and Urban Ocean Lab founder, Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. We'll also have a conversation about the Pulitzer Center supported film, The Cost of Cobalt, with the film's executive producer, Fiona Lloyd-Davies, and director, Robert Flummerfelt.
Throughout the conference, you'll see short video testimonials from a few Pulitzer Center grantees, reflecting on their environmental reporting projects and the real-world impact they've seen as a result.
Finally, we'd like to invite you to a few events to connect with the Pulitzer Center community. Join us on Wednesday, April 21st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for a workshop on examining climate change through poetry. We'd also like to invite all conference attendees to a virtual happy hour on Wednesday, April 21st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you've not yet received a link or have other questions, please reach out to us at outreach@pulitzercenter.org for more information. You can find all these sessions and our full conference lineup online at pulitzercenter.org. Thank you all for joining us.
Good morning and welcome to Environment.
In a few minutes, we'll get started with our first session, By the Numbers, Using Data in Environmental Investigations. Until then, feel free to grab a cup of coffee or tea as we wait for our panelists. We also want to remind you that we have a few more sessions later today and further on in this week, which you can still register for on our website. Finally, as a nonprofit journalism and education organization, we appreciate you supporting our mission. If you're able to donate, you can learn more at pulitzercenter.org/give. See you in a few minutes at 9:30.